It's so bad, I want to give you a 0, but that's not possible, so I give you a 1. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Lenny. I typically cover pop culture, TV, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. So Netflix released a new reality show called Hype House, a TikTok content house that is kind of well known online. This is definitely one of those videos that's like, I watch so you don't have to. I'm genuinely trying to spare you guys. So let's just start with the question, is Hype House worth watching? As you can guess, no, it is not. And y'all know in my videos, I try to be nice. I try to be kind to shows and everything I watch and understand the production and like how much effort goes into it, even if it's something I don't vibe with myself. In this case, I don't think Hype House is worth watching for anyone. I try to usually find which audience would enjoy this, and there is none in this case that I can think of. Here's a statement I found on Wikipedia. Reception of the show by the general public has been generally negative. Many subscribers to Netflix threatened to cancel their subscription due to the release of the show. So I went and tracked the source of this sentence from Wikipedia, and the many subscribers threatening to cancel their subscriptions to Netflix was just one joke reply to the announcement of the show on Twitter. But still, the show is not good. The thing about the show, it's platforming a bunch of really rich and really problematic people, and guess what? It's not even interesting at all. At least you would think if it's like problematic people, like say the Kardashians, who have a similar style of show of like rich people living their life. Even the Kardashians have, some interesting things going on that people find entertaining. These problematic people on Hype House, they're not even interesting. Like, they're not entertaining. The show was overall really boring, in my opinion. If you're someone that liked it, I'm sorry if I'm bashing it. I don't mean to. I just didn't see many merits. It was problematic people. On top of it, they were very boring. Overall, the show is just so depressing to see how much wealth these young people have. All of these people are like between 18 and 22. They are so young, and they're living in these mansions that are just so grotesquely luxurious. No matter who you are, no matter if you make 6 figures, you're a doctor or something, this show is gonna make you feel poor, and it's gonna make you feel shitty about being poor because you or someone you know probably works hard to survive and have money in this world, and like this show just shows a bunch of teens enjoying like a grotesque amount of wealth in a time that is so bad. Like right now, COVID is surging in the US. Teachers and nurses and people in the service industry are struggling, having to go to work with dangerous conditions. Like it just feels so disparate and so horrible, and it's just depressing knowing how the state of the country is. It's just, no matter who you are, you watch this and you're just like, this is not fair. I did not want to watch this show. I didn't want to keep watching it. It was a struggle to get through. So let's talk a little bit about Hype House, what it is, what the format is. Season 1 has 8 episodes on Netflix, all around 30 minutes long. It's very like Kardashian style, just following the lives of the people that live in the Hype House or are associated with it. It released on January 7th of 2022. The show follows the lives of each member of the Hype House, a group of content creators who make videos for the social media app TikTok. Several TikTok influencers live in the Hype House. Some live in their own residences and are still part of the account Hype House. The people we follow in the show are Chase Hudson, Nikita Dragon, Thomas Thomas, Larray, Mia Hayward, Alex Warren, Jack Wright, which I don't remember I don't remember who he was on the show, so I'm not going to talk about him. Cover Annan and Vinnie Hacker. A few TikTok creators with large followings were members of the group, including Charli D'Amelio, Dixie D'Amelio, and Addison Rae. So they were part of the Hype House before. So let me get into discussing the episodes and what the plot lines were. This is sort of your spoiler alert, but like I said, I don't recommend watching this show. There's not much merit to it, so I'm just telling you of the things that did happen in it, which weren't many, to be honest. The big conflict with this season of Hype House is that Chase Hudson, who is also known as Lil Huddy, has moved out of the Hype House. He's also the ex-boyfriend of Charli D'Amelio. They have like a weird thing. So he moved out of the Hype House and got his own mansion, which is just grotesquely huge and luxurious. Like, he's only 18 years old, so it really feels like bonkers. I don't know that he lives like this. It literally feels like the Venetian in Las Vegas, which is my favorite hotel in Vegas. One of the guys from the Hype House tells Chase that it looks like Cheesecake Factory. Chase was supposed to offer his mansion up to the Hype House as like an extension, but he's been withdrawing and focusing a lot more on music. A lot of TikTok stars go to music because they already have this big following. It makes sense. It's an easy way to make money, and if they have any musical talent, they're gonna exploit it. He actually makes emo music. It kind of sounds like the stuff from the 2000s, straight up like the pop punk era of like the All Time Low and those kinds of bands. That's what Lil Huddy's music sounds like, which I was kind of surprised by. Throughout the season, Chase is like nervous to perform live for the first time. He's focusing a lot on his music. He's conflicted about the Hype House. He's kind of avoiding conflict with Thomas. Like, he's avoiding him in general because he knows he's trying to leave. But at the end, Chase performs live and he loves it, and he invites everyone over to a pool party and finally tells Thomas straight up that he just wants to focus on music and not worry about Hype House or TikTok content. So let's talk a little bit about Thomas. He's the leader of the Hype House. He started the house. He is a content creator himself. He has a lot of attention because of the Lil Huddy leaving thing. He talks about the trend of TikTok stars leaving TikTok for music and says that can jeopardize their fandom because their fandom is there because of TikTok, not because of music. Throughout the season, Thomas gets progressively more and more overwhelmed because he pays the rent to the Hype House mansion with the sponsorships on the Hype House's TikTok accounts or other social media accounts. He needs everybody to be contributing to making content, but all the people living there seem to be kind of lazy or kind of just complacent with living in a fancy mansion at age 18. They're just not listening to Thomas, and all of the paying rent and everything falls on him. He ends up planning a trip to Joshua Tree for everyone, including Lil Huddy's household, who he has a couple roommates, but it ends up being very cliquey and things blow up. Thomas has a girlfriend in the Hype House named Mila, who plays kind of like the mom of the house role. Sorry, Mia, not Mila. Mia and Thomas are like the parents of the house, which is wild because they're like 20 and 22. They're the closest thing to authority figures in this household, and because of that, they're not really respected by the others. All of these TikTok kids, they don't have much respect for authority, as you can imagine. They just get mad that Thomas and Mia try to tell them what to do, and all this kind of blows up in Joshua Tree on their getaway because they're mad no one's making content on the vacation. People don't care that Thomas is so stressed and overwhelmed. Thomas actually breaks down and cries, and he just can't handle the pressure anymore. Thomas and Mia were giving kind of codependent vibes for me. It seems like Mia's the only one that can understand him, and Mia sort of speaks for him when Thomas is too scared to like yell at the others. Mia's like the one that yells at everybody, but then that makes everyone hate Mia and then hate Thomas by association. It's just stupid high school drama type stuff, except adding millions of followers and millions of dollars. So by the end, Thomas has pretty much lost hope in Hype House and thinks he should shut it down. It was leading up to him shutting down the Hype House. Like, I was pretty sure it was going to happen. I was like, yes, shut it down. That's the only part that got kind of interesting in the show. He goes and talks to his dad, and I don't know, they just have a heart-to-heart. All of these kids seem to have like tumultuous backgrounds and households, which is fine. Like, I'm not criticizing this show and like these people as like, oh, they're horrible people. Some of them are. I don't really know all of their problematic parts, if they've been canceled for things. I don't really know. But as far as what I saw on the show, they're kind of regular young people. They just weren't that interesting. That doesn't make you a bad person. It's just like they're not very interesting, and they have all this money, and it's just like, why do I care about these people? They never gave me a good reason. So Thomas wants to shut down the Hype House, but at the very end, they throw this like prom-themed party at the Hype House. The prom reminds Thomas about all the things he loves about Hype House and decides not to shut it down. I was like, great. That was the only thing I was looking forward to in this whole stupid show. In this show, we see a little bit of Charlie D'Amelio. She makes a couple cameos. We see Charlie and Huddy on an arcade date. Lil Huddy and Charlie talk about their public relationship and how hard that was. Chase is now way more closed off because of the public scrutiny. I wonder if like the Hulu and Netflix cameras ever collided. Imagine a romance between like the Netflix camera person and like a Hulu camera person. That would be a cute star-crossed lovers concept. I want to write it. Two other people that this show is following were a couple in the Hype House named Alex, and Cover is the girl. Alex is kind of like I would say a David Dobrik inspired content creator, where he does outrageous, shocking prank type content. And throughout the season, he keeps like kind of losing or declining in followers and trying to find the next big stunt to do. The couple also fights. We saw a big fight documented. There was like crying and screaming. I forget what the fight was about. It was intense. But a big tension between Alex and Cover, this couple, is that he is always trying to make content out of their relationship and like prank her and do all this other obnoxious prank vlogger shit to her with little regard to her feelings about it all. I was just like, this sucks. Like, she needs to leave his ass, but whatever. The biggest shitty thing Alex did was he orchestrated a whole fake wedding to Cover. This was a sensitive subject because Cover wants to get married for real, and Alex just kind of plays with that a lot. Cover does feel it's kind of messed up to fake it, and she's annoyed by it. It's like a full thing. Like, they dress up. It feels real-ish. I mean, the Hype House people are the only guests, but they orchestrate a whole like officiant to be there, and she dresses like a bride, and it's cruel. He's actually pranked her before by fake proposing in a way that felt kind of real, and then she realizes and is like, this sucks. It was just for content. Even the boys, they're very dense. They're very like, proud of you, dude, kind of boys, you know? Even the boys tell Alex that he's being dumb about how much he's playing with Cover's emotions and doing this fake wedding crap. Mia's encouraging her to be more honest with him, but it's just hard because Alex is just not ready. So they have the cruel fake wedding, and he titles the video, "We Got Married," so straight up clickbait. They talk afterwards and sort of debrief about how, you know, she's not really okay with this, and Alex says he just doesn't want to worry about marriage at 20 years old, which, yeah, true, but also like, you shouldn't be living in a mansion at 20 years old with your significant other. I don't know, it's just like, later on in the season, Alex is mad that the wedding video didn't do that well. Shocker, it was total clickbait and cruel as hell to Cover. And that same week, he ends up breaking his foot, and he's immobile, and he's like upset he can't make content. Everything he's thinking is like, make content, and make it crazier and crazier than the last. He kind of talks about also how you don't get a sick day in social media, which is kind of true, but also, I don't know, it's hard. It's hard for me to empathize with content creators that are at this level of success, just because, like, they do have so much money and resources at their disposal, and, like, it's true they don't get a day off. They have to be posting content all the time, but it's just like, you get a big reward for it, at least. But he does talk about how he's depressed, and he feels like not allowed to be depressed because he's rich. Take that as he will. He made a prank video with the girlfriend of one of the other members of the Hype House and her twin sister. They got the twin to pretend to be the girlfriend and had her kiss Vinnie, who's another guy in the Hype House. It sounds complicated, but it's just like a prank of like trying to catch his girlfriend cheating, but it was the girlfriend's twin sister, so the girlfriend wasn't cheating. Whatever. Because the prank was for the twin sister to kiss Vinnie, who is like a very beloved kid with a lot of fangirls. Maddie, the twin sister, got death threats for kissing Vinnie at all. Then Vinnie talked about how he's not allowed to date and can't do anything because his fans, or some of the fans, are so crazy and insane towards any girl he associates with. Let's talk a little bit about Vinnie, I guess. He is a newer member of Hype House. He's young, he's 18. His thing on TikTok is to post thirst traps, which is just like shirtless videos. Has like a big teen girl audience, and is also a Twitch streamer, so he has some like also crossover audience with like gamers. He does have some anger issues. I mean, he's young, but he's threatens to like punch anyone that's gonna talk to him funny one day when he's just so mad and raging. He does apologize to the group after being so mad, but he's also kind of like, that's just how I am. And I'm just like, that's a red flag. He's creepy. Also, there's like a lot of issues and conflict with him and the rest of the group because he does his own thing a lot. He streams a lot. He does his thirst traps. So he doesn't do a lot of content with everyone else, and everyone just gets really salty because he is a high profile member and he doesn't like help out the house with their content. He also at some point mentions that he's gonna do a TikTok versus YouTuber fight, and he does a boxing match. At the end we find out he won that, even though they didn't show anything about it. At the end, it was just mentioned in passing. At some point, Vinnie says that Miley Cyrus DM'd him about going to prom, and they're all telling him to invite her to their prom party they're doing. And I'm just like, what are you doing, Miley, over here? A big person in this show was Nikita Dragon, like I mentioned, who is basically a professional clout chaser. She owns a beauty brand called Dragon Beauty, but she has had so many controversies on the internet as long as she's been there. She is 25 years old, so a lot of the time I was just like, Nikita, what are you doing hanging out with 18-year-olds? Nikita is just notorious for just being anywhere where there is clout and fame and followers. I do feel like she joined Hype House just because that was like the next thing coming up. She keeps comparing the Hype House to high school, which again, I'm like, Nikita, what are you doing in high school? You are 25 years old. She also has some controversies this season because her manager calls her and says that her friend Larray is saying that she convinced him to go to a party right after he had tested positive for COVID. Apparently she was drunk when she said this. She's saying this did not happen, but based on her history, I don't believe anything Nikita says, which is why it's hard for me to consume her in this way. They really try to present her in a positive light. She played the victim a lot about being canceled a lot. It was hard for me to have sympathy with her and to believe anything she says just because she is such a notorious like liar and clout chaser that I'm just like, I just don't believe it. She gets really mad about Larray accusing her of making him go to the party COVID positive, and she's like, people literally get canceled for this stuff. And I'm just like, girl, no they don't. Like, you have not been canceled for all your COVID bullshit. She keeps talking about like, one wrong move can kill my empire that I tried so hard to build, and I'm like, you made a million wrong moves. Like, what are you talking about? Finally, Larray and Nikita, after this whole COVID scare, they talk and they sort of apologize. And they're supposedly besties, but also like they have a very toxic friendship. They're always kind of like doing that playful, insulting thing that like toxic friends do. A lot of these people say that Nikita's so nice. Like, they know she's problematic, but personally she treats them so nice. She's such a good friend, whatever. People forget that like toxic friends, they can be very, very nice and very sweet. It's just about how they handle themselves when things go south that shows their true colors. So toxic friends can be very nice to you, can be very sweet, but it's just like, how do they handle it when there is conflict? And usually that's where the toxic part comes in. So her and Larray seem to be very toxic together. So Nikita sort of accepts Larray's apology because he says that he didn't know his management was going to blame her for him going to a party while having COVID. It feels so ridiculous saying all this. There's a scene where she's driving and she's super upset that Trisha Paytas came after her and downplayed her Snapchat reality show. She like claps back, but she's like crying about it. I'm just like, both Nikita and Trisha Paytas are just very similar types of people. They purposely play into scandals and controversy to get attention and to keep themselves alive and relevant. To me, they're not very different than like the Candace Owens and the blonde girl, the Republican, like super right-wing sensationalist, the Shapiros, like those types of people that just say whatever's most controversial just to get the clicks and the relevancy. It's a strategy. It just is gonna make you hated generally by the public. And yeah, this whole season she just played the victim. She actually says that she hangs out with the Hype House people because she feels accepted by all of the 18-year-olds, which I'm like, that's a big red flag when like you have to go to younger people to hang out. It's really because she's been kind of blacklisted by like a lot of content creators because she is so messy. It feels like people her age and even like possibly her community, like the LGBT community, has like kind of turned her back on her just because she has been so like racist and misogynist, like a lot of different things bad with the COVID pandemic. Like she's just been problematic in so many ways. Eventually, Larray actually confronts Nikita about her past problematic issues, mostly the blackfishing or cultural appropriation issues she has had. She kind of agrees with him and is just kind of like, I just made a mistake kind of thing. And Larray's like, if you're racist again, I will punch you. And she's like, I hope you will. It just feels very like nothing happened. Nothing deep happened there, it felt like, even though it was supposed to be a deep confrontation. Again, she says it's not fair that she can't make a mistake. You can sort of make mistakes if they're really mistakes, but it's just like, this is how she stays relevant. And finally, a big part of the show was Larray. He is 22, and he's someone I kind of was aware of. I've just seen him like around kind of James Charles too. He says that Hype House helped him a lot, even though he got a lot of hate from fans when he joined because his fans thought it was cringy, which it is. He was actually the one to bring in Nikita to the group because he did want another LGBT person around, which makes sense. He has become close with her, but like I said, they have a pretty toxic seeming relationship. It almost feels like frenemies. At the end of episode 2 or 3, I think it's one of those. Yeah, at the end of episode 2, actually Larray tests positive for COVID, which is a big controversy. They suspend production of the show for 2 weeks. All of the Hype House people are super pissed about Larray because he did go to a party after testing positive. They're mad that they're stuck in the house because of other people's actions, as if they're being very safe themselves. Like, the Hype House is notorious for, at the peak of COVID in 2020, fully having parties and all that, not disregarding the pandemic completely, before vaccines were even a thing. Some of the Hype House people FaceTime Larray and they're like, oh, feel better, oh, I'm sorry you have COVID, oh. They hang up and they're like, I hate him, how can you get a positive test? And then go to a party. Like, everyone thinks he's so perfect, but fuck that guy. Basically, I'm just like, oh my god, the two-facedness. It's just awkward that this is documented on Netflix, but okay. Larray, we see a little bit of his background. He gets like a car for his grandma, and that was something a little bit interesting, but in general, Larray felt very just superficial in whatever he was saying. Like, outside of the family stuff, like, he lives in his own mansion type place, and he's very like, he pretends to not know what old things are. Like, he sees a vinyl and he's like, what is that? It feels very performative, and he just plays this like ditzy character all the time. And like I said, he kind of confronts Nikita about the blackfishing and says he gets a lot of heat for being friends with her, which makes sense. People that associate with Nikita get a lot of heat because she is problematic. At the very end of the episode 8, there was a 6 months later update. Thomas is updating us that a lot of the Hype House doesn't live together anymore. They kind of split in two, and now Alex and Cover, the couple, live separately. He's really sad about that, but has people lined up to come into the Hype House. So there's going to be a lot of new people, and he's like, stay tuned. So that hints to me that there might be a season 2. So let me get into my critiques about Hype House, which I've touched on a lot in my discussion so far. First of all, like I said, the wealth is so depressing that these kids have. And it's sad because you can see how unfulfilled they are too. Like, yeah, they get to play with all these toys, but they all feel kind of lost. And like one of the guys mentioned, he's depressed. It just shows like it's just too much. They have like nothing to work towards, and they're just playing this weird content numbers game that is very unfulfilling and exhausting, and it's just overall depressing. Like, that's why I recommend not watching it. The state of the world is so bad right now that it's just like gonna make you feel worse. There was one point where the Hype House people were all bored around the house, and two of the guys were just throwing like a large house plant at each other, like a ball back and forth across the room. And it was such a small moment, but that was the kind of moment that just enraged me. I'm just like, this poor plant, it's like not even having a respect for like a living being, like a plant, a living thing. It just felt so soulless and heartless and depressing. It's just like they just have nothing to do, and they are in these mansions with no life in them. Like, they're mansions for me, like meant for a lot of people to live in, a big family to live in or something. It's even too much for a regular family, but like, it's just sad to see these huge mansions occupied by just a few 18-year-olds doing pranks. Like, and it's depressing. It's like the home isn't even being utilized in like a wholesome way. I don't know. It's weird. I think you get it. Something I didn't like either, which is more like show related, but they didn't clarify until episode 8 that the Hype House is the only content house that isn't backed by a management company or investors. I was kind of curious in general about how Hype House compared to Team 10 or the Phase House and the Sway House. There's other content houses that are known out there, but they're all backed by like big companies or investors. And all of those have ceased producing content while Hype House has remained. And it's kind of interesting how Hype House is owned by the creators, kind of. Mostly the Thomas guy, who is a creator. He's more of a peer to them. That's probably why they struggle with authority with him, but whatever. The Hype House is just a little different. And it was stupid they waited till episode 8 to tell me that, because I was wanting that clarification in episode 1. And I think one of the biggest critiques is just platforming problematic people. Like I said, I don't know what a lot of these people have done, if they have been canceled for other things. I mean, all of them have been partying during COVID and even in 2020, so that is reason enough to get canceled. They all talk about how you can get canceled for that, but they all did it and didn't get canceled for that. It's just a lot of empty conversations around cancel culture and just about like, oh, we can make mistakes, but it's like they do all the time and they still have all their wealth and their followers, so I don't know what they're talking about. Featuring Nikita, to me, is just like, it's so tone deaf, and they show her in a pretty positive light, like as far as the show goes. It's a big ad for her brand, Dragon Beauty. She just frames herself as like a very cool person, and I'm just like, it's very misleading because she has done very problematic things, and that's how she gets her money, by being problematic and being scandalous. If I was just watching this show and didn't know anything about internet culture, I would think she's pretty cool. I would think she was the most interesting part of the show, because it looked like she was walking into the Drag Race workroom a lot of the time with the outfits she would wear. She wears really cool outfits and makeup, and that's kind of the coolest part about her, I think. So I get why she was appealing to the producers, especially with such a bland cast. She's very interesting and cool in how she presents herself. The problem is, like, the background of her is just so bad. She was literally part of Dramageddon 1, a supporting role in Dramageddon 2, Sistergeddon. She's had very many racist controversies. She's played into how racist she is. Again, she ignored the COVID pandemic. She's notoriously, there's a clip of her like using like a little piece of plastic talking to paparazzi during the height of the pandemic. She's had too many strikes, and she has not been canceled like she claims, like, oh, I could get canceled for this. And it's like, no, you haven't been. You've done it already. Like, you have a show on Netflix where you're featured. They talk a lot about how cancel, like, I'm gonna get canceled, but she's not canceled, and she's there. So she's fine. Cancel culture doesn't work. Let me talk about the positives I found with this show. So that's all I have for my Hype House review. I'm sorry, I usually can find positives in these shows, but in this case, I could not find one positive, and I'm so sorry. I like TV shows, and I like to find any good in them. There is nothing here. I'm so sorry. Please let me know what you thought of Hype House in the comments below, whether you watched or plan to watch or are boycotting it. I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos twice a week about pop culture, internet trends, TV, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!